Welcome to the MMHP in the 99. Podcasting from the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in downtown Bay City. Channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history. From the city by the bay. And now, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and your host, Scott Baker.
This was all done at your studio.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for the very first episode of the Michigan Music History Podcast Season 4. We want to give everybody a thanks for the 4 years, or the 4 seasons, I should say, of listening, and 2 years of voting and voting us in as the winners at the Review Award. We're grateful for everything that we've had coming to us, and we've decided to make a move down here to the Hall of Fame and sit amongst the legendary rockers and musicians that have been a guiding light for much of Michigan music. I personally want to thank Fred Reif and Gary Johnson for jumping on board early with me on this endeavor. We've turned it into quite the success. And Mike Beatty, Mr. Mike here, for adding his 2 cents in the videos, which are now plentiful. And as you guys can see, there's quite a bit of extra footage and great talk for all of our podcasts. Coming here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, we still have the opportunity to go back to Studio 163 where we've done all of our other shows, and we want to thank Alan Garcia for sure for giving us the head start on that and putting us in the right path for these podcasts. Having said that, tonight's a really special episode because the guys decided to allow me to do a little talking tonight about my new record, Purpose. The very first episode, I think when we did the introductions, way back on episode 1, we talked with Gary, and I think episode 2 is Fred, and I never have done one yet, so I'm grateful for these guys for wanting to discuss this.
Yeah, we're going to put you on the spot.
And if my voice sounds hoarse, it's because I'm getting through this whole allergic summer here. But hey, this is a cool time to talk about my 6th record, so I just want to catch up with everybody, though. Dr. J, how's everything been here at the Hall?
A lot of excitement here. We're just about to announce our 4 new honorary inductees, and these are 4 of Michigan's best poster artists: Dennis Lauren, Stanley Mouse, Carl Lundgren, and Gary Grimshaw. And we have a new exhibit that's just opening, where we have 10 posters that were loaned to us by Steve Kahn, a Ann Arbor collector, and hopefully everybody will get to the Hall of Fame and check that out. Also, I might add, we've opened the Ann and Robert Hatchell Theater at the Hall of Fame. And also, I should say, it's really the Historical Museum of Bay County, but the Hall of Fame is connected to that as well. So you'll be able to see Smelly Little Town, that documentary about Madonna in Bay City. And also, we have the first installment of a series that I'm putting together with my son, entitled The Birth of Michigan Rock and Roll. And the first chapter is called We're Gonna Rock. And you'll be able to see that at the theater as well. So, anyways, and Fred, what's happening with you?
Outstanding.
Well, wow.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Yeah. What am I doing? Well,
Fred,
I'm still looking for records every day.
what's your latest score in the last couple months? We haven't had a good meeting here in about 2 months or 3 months. So what's the latest good one? Anything good?
Well, I've been I haven't been finding a whole lot of really, that I go, whoa. But I've been going through my boxes of spare records and ones I haven't put on for some reason on Discogs or eBay. And I just put one on yesterday, and within 30 minutes, I sold it for $30.
Wow.
A reggae, an old, from Jamaica, actually.
Oh.
A 45, so.
45. Really?
Somebody wanted it.
That's beautiful. Have you come across any Michigan finds in your gold digging over the past 3 months?
all the time. I found out, I didn't buy it at first, even though it was only 10 cents, but it was some polka band from Freeland.
Oh,
But it was recorded in Bay City at, I think, John Lipinski's. Did he have a studio?
Right, he bought Art Shield's studio.
Oh, okay.
So it was either recorded at the old studio when it was on Raymond Street, but then Lipinski moved his operation out somewhere in Saginaw Bay.
Okay.
And so it has to be at one of the two spots.
So I went back there after I didn't buy it and saw that it was recorded in Bay City. So I picked it up, the heck, for a dime.
yeah.
All right.
Something England, but they were from Freeland.
Really?
And I mean, it really, the closer I get to hopefully finishing my book, that polka book may happen.
The polka side of it. You had
Well, I mean,
Just
a whole book
a book
about
on polka.
I mean, I keep coming across these polka bands that Freeland, a bunch of them from Saginaw, Frankenmuth, of course, Owasso, they're everywhere.
and you're finding more and more.
And
more.
I keep finding them, and I just thought, that's a lot of people must like polka.
Well, they do. I think it'd be a great idea to
Well,
do a polka
we'll see.
book. Yeah.
Well, the polka was
Not getting any younger either. So.
some of our biggest episodes are our polka episodes, so that's for sure.
Yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah. They always shoot up there.
Because people still ask me, or I'll say, do you know the difference between Polish and German polkas? And no one knows.
Right.
And so I'll tell them, and they'll go, really? That's it?
And then there's the Czechoslovakian one too.
Right.
Right, which is the Owasso based. I
Right.
found that quite interesting back on our podcast with
Me too.
Javitsky. Mr. Mike, what's going on down there with you, bud?
Well, just same old, going to concerts and have seen some great ones. Lately, Natalie Merchant, Richard Thompson.
Next week,
In fact, next week, yep, you and I, Bruce Coburn.
Bruce Coburn, Wednesday.
Yep.
Really?
The night before I'm leaving for vacation. So
Well, yeah, that'll be a good send-off. And then we got, next Thursday, Ralph Armstrong, a Detroit bassist. He has played with Frank Zappa, Mahavishnu Orchestra. He played with the Mahavishnu Orchestra starting at age 16.
fantastic.
And
Yeah, I
and
played
he's
with his father a couple times at the
at
Ark.
the Ark. What did his father play?
Well, he played the fiddle
Okay.
and guitar, but all stringed instruments. He was in a band, Martin, Brogan, and Armstrong.
Okay.
And then they actually made a film of him called Huey Bluey. That was his nickname.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Howard not Howard, his son Ralph
Yeah.
sometimes played with him,
Okay.
but he didn't the night at the Ark. So,
Yeah, you gotta watch that interview. He talks about a lot of Miles Davis stories. He played with Miles Davis,
Wow.
and
Incredible.
Anyway,
Thanks for
seeing
sharing
him
that.
at the Blue Llama next Thursday.
Right on. Yeah, we got Mr. Mike mic'd up here this year, and for season 4 here at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we're looking forward to jumping into this new endeavor for ourselves as we get to see the beautification of the classic music that's come through here in Bay City, statewide, that is here in Bay City at the museum. And Mike's definitely been he's been taping and going to all the shows, and Gary's been on vacation for a couple months out east and putting things together for movies that are going to be coming out. Fred's written the book, and myself, I got a new record out.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Scott, I think it would be interesting if you kind of go back before we get into the new album, which is excellent. How you started, when you started, and this is this is like your sixth album
Yeah, of mine.
Yes.
I mean, I did.
that you were involved with,
Well,
either a solo or in a band, right?
Well, yeah, there's Muddy Gumbo has a record out, and we have 2 EPs out with Muddy Gumbo as well. But that was predated me going solo, but this is my 6th solo record.
Okay.
First 3 were with the Universal Expressions, my backing band.
All right.
And then I did 3 under my own name since then.
So when did you start on playing guitar?
I started playing guitar in 86, I believe, 85, 86. It was something I wanted to do since the early days of being a kid. There's a picture of me somewhere air guitaring before I was 1 with not air guitaring, with a little plastic guitar on top of my toy box. And my mom said, yeah, and I used to sit with her 45s. She had like this bucket of 45s. I would sit and spin them on my summer vacations, or if I got grounded, I'd go in my room and put them on my little record player and spin them and spin them and spin them. And I think my favorite one that my mom had on 45 was "They're Coming to Take Me Away." Haha, they're coming to take me away.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, and then flip it over, it's all in reverse. That just blew my mind.
There's a famous story about that. They were playing it at Band Canyon, and A.J. Lamar, who was one of the owners of Band Canyon, hated that song. And I guess somebody put it on the jukebox and went right out there. Yanked it off.
Crazy.
And that was the last time "They're Coming to Take Me Away" was played at Band Canyon.
Whoa, yeah, that's definitely one that'll get under the skin pretty quick for people.
Yeah. So the new one, Purpose.
Purpose. Yeah.
16 songs, 58 minutes. This is kind of a concept album, correct?
Yeah.
All right. And, all right, as I was going through and just jotting a couple notes, listening to it, this is probably the 4th or 5th time I've listened to the album. It starts out with voices, kind of an unusual way to start a record. What was the idea there? I mean, you have the conversation between different people, and I noticed the sort of the last thing they say is they could be dangerous if they learn to work together. How does this set the table for Purpose?
That came out halfway, well, almost wrapping up the record, actually. I was going back through all my concept figurations in my head of, the Great Floyd records or Supertramp or Queensryche in the 80s and all. I just touched base on every one of them had a theme. Every one of them had something unique to offer for their generation. And Dylan and I were talking, my son, and I said, we have an Alexa in the house. And somehow it got on the conversation of we should tape Alexa talking with Siri. And he goes, well, there's Google Assistant, and there's this and this and this. And I go, hang on here. So I already had Purpose in the can for the most part. I think I was working on my vocals with Jeff Yantz, where I recorded in his studio. And I went and wrote a whole skit that they talk about. And we let Siri kind of run the phone. She's kind of like the meeting head leader. Mm-hmm. And she's in the left channel. Mr. Google Assistant's right down the middle. He's in the center, and then Alexa's over on the right trying to catch up, and she's having a hard time in her computer world. And it's during the first song, Push, which kind of introduces the whole album of everything at all points, which the album's not based on just midlife crisis. The album's based on purpose at every stage, whether it be 8th grade becoming a freshman, whether it be changing school districts, whether it be brand new job for the 28-year-old, or say a 75-year-old man losing his longtime wife. Whatever the case is, you find different purposes at different points in life, or find life's purpose. There's always a change. Why is that? How is that? Nobody really has taken off with that. So I thought to myself, I don't really want to timestamp the album, but having these mechanical things in our hands all the time that we can talk to that aren't even there, it's kind of interesting to have them have their own conversation about what this guy's doing that's holding them in their hand, or what we can do for the people that we serve, as it comes up later in their voices, and how they go about everything and how they can be controlled, because they're talking to this electronic voice all the time. So Dylan and I went downstairs and recorded each individual voice on each thing for their line, and then I mixed them together like they were talking, and then I brought that into the song.
Okay. Well, it had to be fun that you got Dylan involved in this thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, then the second song, Purpose.
Yeah, the title
All right,
track.
I like that line, Starlight, Moon, Dust, your love surrounds us, but we've lost our way, which you kind of repeat throughout the song. What's that just kind of came together, that the lyrics there and to match the music, or?
That was, I don't remember exactly how when Purpose came out as the title track. It was, we had actually, to backtrack, we're going to talk about doing a classic 70s sounding record. That was our next Scott Baker album during COVID. So 2020, we got to do a gig, like everybody masked up uptown, and we sounded really Floydy, really trippy, but we were clicking on everything. Everybody was loving it. And I thought, wow, maybe it's time for us to really do a concept record, I had no idea what I was going to write about. But Timmy, my longtime drummer, 22 years or 23 years, he's like, you've wanted to do that forever. Why don't you got time to write one now? Yeah. And my friend Corey, who I graduated with, she lives out in Montana. She's texting me, seeing how I was doing during COVID, mid of October. And I was just getting my head together for how am I going to go about this album? And she says, well, it seems like you found your purpose. And I'm like, whoa, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I go, why do you say that? And she goes, look, you've wanted your whole life to, bring pleasure to people, and you do it through your music. And she's like, you still are doing it even through this. And I thought that was pretty heavy, and then Purpose just really took me over. So between the second to last week of October to the very first week of December of 2020, I pounded out 17 tracks. We cut one from the record, but that Purpose track, Starlight, Moon Dust, Your Love Surrounds Us, but we've lost our way. I think when you're finding your purpose, you're always thinking universally we're all in the same boat, but nothing has really been as heavy as these last 5 or 6 years.
Really.
In the world. So it was hard for me to.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned this to you earlier. When I listen to Purpose, to me, you can really hear the classic rock influences, I think, in your life. And the album, to me, even though it was recorded in 2023, I think it could have been put out 50 years ago. It has that kind of universal sound, kind of like a Pink Floyd, Moody Blues kind of groove going through the whole thing. And that your guitar playing, I think it first comes out in the song Purpose, that David Gilmour kind of guitar fill, that it's such an important part of Pink Floyd's sound. Was that kind of intentional to kind of go for the David Gilmour sound there?
I had the idea for the first part of that solo, and then I just mixing around my amp sounds, and I found some reverbs in it, and they took me right to that whole the wall. It was Young Lust's tone, and it was just because my ears were hearing it, and it doesn't say it on it, so I'm just farting around with it. So I went and pulled out my Strat and said, let's try it with the Strat or a Tully, like Dave would. And that's where I thought I'd mimic a few things in there to get that started. Then it breaks right in to the bridge area, which is a Tully break, kind of like another part of the wall or something. But I was originally singing lyrics in that area, and Jeff and I couldn't get it to work, or I was very unhappy with myself. I thought, you know what? Good spot for a clean solo break. And I let that thing ride out the rest of the song. And another cool, weird thing is Push. At the end of Push, you hear me throwing my phone into the water after Siri and all them people. They're like, hey, there's everything's messed up, and you hear me talking about life. It's just, how is this a ball of fuzz where you're at? And then all of a sudden I'm like, ugh, and then you hear splash. The phone's getting thrown in the water, and that next song comes right out of it. Starlight and Moon Dust, Your Love Surrounds Us, but we've lost our way. Everything was starting to line up. It was like the puzzle pieces were coming together.
Okay, I don't know if you guys jump in here. The Narc. Okay, the title. What's that referring to? Because it's got, I love that recurring lyric in there. What is it? Who stole the show?
Yeah.
Maybe you can get over the whole lyric for me.
It's I should have brought my guitar.
Who did that?
Yeah. Who stole the show?
Where did that go?
Where did that go?
Who stole the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I play that.
That's a very nice kind of melodic riff you've got going on through that song.
That was, it's the Narc is your history. It tells everything about you. I came to that conclusion. The Narc in school was always one that told on you, the one that always told.
Right, or informer on a drug deal or whatever.
Yeah, a really bad
but
narc,
it has nothing really to do with that.
No, to me it was like looking back wherever you're at, trying to develop where I'm heading. Everything about what you got to add up into this next equation comes from your past. So it's all and now the past is looking back at me. That's a little middle age thrown in there because I'm actually right down that line. All of a sudden, I was looking over the trees, and now the trees are looking back at me like you're just in the breeze now.
Mm-hmm.
You always have those aspirations, but at some point you catch up to it all, and everything kind of just gets thrown wayside, and you just become one of everybody else. Just like you become one with everything else when you get in the ground.
Are you? There was sort of like orchestral backing. Did you use a synthesizer to get the sound of strings and so on?
That was Mike Thomas. My original keyboard player that we wrote the record with, Wesley Kunst, he moved away and he's actually on the first two tracks. And then I called Mike because he's the only guy I thought of that could possibly give me that. I needed some keyboards that had everything from 90s Edges to 70s Pink Floyd and Genesis to Utopia, Todd Rundgren. One guy in town does that. That's Mike Thomas. He heard the tracks. He goes, let me see what I can do. And then he came up with the instrumentation. There is a lot on the album where I put in patches and samples and stuff on my own. But if you hear the keys sounding like strings, it's usually him. There is some that I did, though, too.
Are you going to recruit him? Is there a situation where you're going to play this live?
I would like to. I'd like to do the whole thing
But
live.
you'd have to get a keyboard player.
Yeah, we
right?
had one lined up, but unfortunately we don't know where he's at right now. So he did do a gig with his other band, but he has all of a sudden, after 5 rehearsals, dropped off the face of the earth. So yeah, I'm in the midst of it. As soon as we do, I said the same thing to Bob Martin, who interviewed me last week here. And I said, I would really love to do the album top to bottom. I talked to Mike about it, and Mike's he's always preoccupied and busy. So
where would you do that? Would you try to go, in like an inside venue?
Yeah.
For a little better sound?
Oh yeah. So it's dialed in.
Yeah, maybe Scotty's would work.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you do that. I don't know anything else, guys, that we want to bring up. I mean,
No, I think initially my comments to you were, obviously Pink Floyd influence, Tom Petty I heard in there.
There's some roots in it for sure. Yeah.
Yep. And lyrics is what triggered my Frank Zappa comment.
Yeah.
I hear Zappa because of, and there's some musical, but some of the lyrics are very Zappa-esque.
That's really cool. It's hard to write like that, but I had another person tell me too. It's one of the deepest albums he's ever listened to with the lyrics. Actually, 2 people did. They're like the words are just deeper than you expect, but catchy at the same time. And I said, well, that's the goal, is to write something good that people can grab onto.
Yeah.
But also take them for their own emotional journey.
Yeah, it's a great album. There's no doubt about that. And also, you added some instrumental passages.
Yeah.
There's 2 or 3 of those throughout the album. What was the thinking there? Is that just to kind of help with the transition of...
Which is the name of one of them. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. It's they were there as these little patches I wrote during the writing sessions. I thought to myself, we got to have something that you can kind of connect to, that's kind of gives the listener a break, maybe, that we can expand upon and also take you to another section of the album. I'm old school, so I like albums top to bottom. I don't like to go pick singles out. I mean, I really got to be in a hit mode to go put on a hit record, you know. I like top to bottom. This is how it's supposed to be listened to. So having those mental breaks with something interesting going on and finding the right spot between two songs. And then when it came to mixing it, like, let me see which one that is. I think it's a Chex Mix. And it's got my daughter on saxophone. It's got Matt playing like a Chris Squire type bass sound. Matt originally just played it straightforward, but in post-production, I let him get beefed up in there, and I brought Addie in to do the alto. And Mike Thomas did his part last, and he copped everything, like clean house with it. So when I brought in the backing vocalist too, Eric Hasel was one of them. He wanted to map out a whole choir-esque section, so I ended up getting him and Andy Hahn, who also did backing vocals, to do the male part for that song. But Sharon Brand did the lady part vocals on the record, and Jeff Jans is on one track on hardcover, the acoustic one at the very end, which has a story all its own.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's really more ballads on this record than there are rockers, right?
That was the last. I did not know that was happening. We snuck down into the studio the second week of December on a Sunday night. Everybody masked up. Everybody's freaked out about coming. My wife's like, "Don't tell the kids they're coming over. COVID's in the middle of COVID." So the guys haven't been over. They get down there and they're listening to the record. We all decided this one track called "A Year" I wrote was not fitting. It was going to be pushed aside. It was too COVID-y. I didn't want a COVID timestamp on this record, you know. I'm like, yeah, I'm with you guys. So we kicked that off. But the what was your question again? I don't know.
Well, there was more rockers.
Oh,
Right, there was
soft
more
songs.
ballads than rockers, but I was leading into
Yes.
the song called "Silhouette," which,
Yeah.
all right, it seems to be kind of like a song about a woman who is, what do I want to say it? Maybe not deep, but more superficial. Am I right in?
Yeah.
And that you're saying she's a headline reader, a short clip feeder. Are you
She
addressing?
skims through the day.
Well, yeah, you know, I think that's very true. One thing about the internet is it's made us maybe a nation of with a short attention span. You know, you don't want to really dig into something that's long and lengthy. You know, you read these little things on Facebook or you know,
You
clips
like that
on
tune.
yeah.
Well, that coming out of your original thing, at that meeting, we all said this is a really ballady type record, even though it's a concept album. And I'm like, it hit me like, oh, I didn't really write fast-paced rockers. I have a couple. With Gratitude Works on there, Cascade of Life, you know, a couple on there. But it's more of an emotional record. But I said, you know what? It's still the album. It tells the story. They all were in agreement. Come to that song. That was when you hit track 8. That's kind of the tipping point of the record. That's like you're building the hill up, but you go through all those emotional bits, whether from any age. You hit hardcover, and life is a hardcover. It's just how it is. So you're trying to dig yourself out and see that other side and see where you need to go. When you hit Silhouette, it's about driving and seeing. You're at night, you're looking at this girl on her porch on her phone, and she's there every night skimming through the news or whatever she's doing on there, but she's in the same boat you are, or coming into it, you know, like what am I finding? And you're seeing it in other people. That was my goal for Silhouette, is that you see in other people the same crap you have to deal with yourself, and you hope that they can achieve some kind of happy purpose as well as you. But everybody's got their own issues, and that's a tune for sure.
All right, so then you kind of move toward the conclusion of the of the record, So Solvent of Saints, would you say that's the last song? Is that the one that kind of,
Brought it all together.
kind of ties it all together?
Yeah.
I was stronger when I was younger. A new perspective
Yeah.
for
Wherever I'm heading.
whatever you're looking for,
Yeah.
a holy grail or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the lyrics right there. It sums it all up of whether you found it or not. You're on the better side of being depressed, being unsure of yourself. You're on the better side of the bad day. You're on the best side of the good day. But Solvent of Saints, you want to get washed over with that ability to know everything will be okay. I tried to get the lyrics to also line up that we all work together. Everybody can work together. There's a lot of that while it was written, this whole world's and it's still about 50-50.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've never been at. And it's like I hope that everything added up to the point where I could find my way, but we need to all work together still. And Solvent of Saints is just washing yourself over with that thought process of we can do this. And then it floats away, just before that's another instrumental that's got Siri and all that on there. And
Like
Alexa.
Cascade of Life.
It was just before that one.
A Descent, right. Okay.
A
right.
Descent, yeah.
And that's kind of a reprise of Push, right? A little bit.
It's them kind of
Yeah.
coming to conclusions like we can get thrown away just as well as anybody
Right.
else. And I also had the little bit in the middle of them, as they all said together at once, listen to more music. Like they were given reasons why they were thrown in the water. I put a floating sound on their voice and everything just to say, if you remember back at track one, Eric Hassel also did some tidbits and Push with his voice that he brought back in all their tunes later. Some Fish, Billy Breathe oriented type things that we had a laugh because we both said Fish at the same time, and it just reminded us of their concept records, and we grew up on that. So just there's tidbits that we utilize. So Timmy was really strong on I'd send him things and he'd be like, make sure there's a tie. My drummer, he's like, make sure something ties with the other one, so it's not just a story. And then you say it's a concept album. He says, all the great ones have some kind of tie to it all. So I attempted to do that lyrically, by getting us all to come together and musically as well.
Well, I think you certainly succeeded. Maybe you could just kind of point out to everybody how they can get a copy of Push. I know it's available in a number of different ways. I got it through iTunes because I was in New Jersey when you released it, but you can get it through Bandcamp. Am I correct? Where else?
Bandcamp's by far the best one for the artist. So if you have any artist that's on Bandcamp, they will make more money that way. So if you're all about supporting the artist, 83 to 85% goes right to them. 100% first Friday of every month right now. So buy it on there, and they also give you a little thing on your phone for an app that all your albums are saved in one little thing. All you just hit play, find the record, just like any other app by Spotify or whoever, and you get more money that way. But I am also distributed through DistroKid, like most people go through, just like every other album I have out right now. You can find all 6 of them on Cubase. You can find them on Spotify. You can find them on Apple, iTunes, Amazon. You can go right to Amazon and order them. The CD, though, is only available locally at the Electric Kitsch, and as well as at my shows, or ordering through Bandcamp, where I can direct send you one.
Yeah, well, there's not many record stores you can even go to anymore.
Or the fact that most people, at this point, really are not listening to CDs.
Here, this might be a dumb question, but is CD Baby still around?
They just wrapped up. They just sent
That's
out
what
a
I
thing
thought,
3 weeks ago.
we had a CD on there and sold them out, and I never replenished them.
They just sent out a thing, and I don't remember who posted it. It might have been one of us, but CD Baby is no longer going to be available, and we're going to recommend that you go through DistroKid, get it out digitally. They sent some kind of thing out.
Okay.
Excuse me, but
Are you going to do vinyl?
I would love to if I could make enough money and do enough shows. I believe sonically it's my best sounding record.
Yeah.
I think the production hit it.
Could you get 58 minutes of
That's
music
the thing.
on a vinyl record?
Might
It was
have
used
to
to
do-
be 40 minutes was about the max you could get on there and you start
MBN2.
losing. Yeah, a double album, that would be a tough one.
Which is hard to pay for.
Right.
That's the only thing
To
I'm
me,
up
the
against.
best way to listen to it, the single track stream you sent me of.
Well, that's cool you mentioned that.
Yeah, the high res.
I-
Just listen to it.
That was a Jeff
You
Yance
listen
thing.
to it all at once.
Jeff was he mastered the record,
Yeah.
and he also recorded my vocals at his studio, White Trash Studio here in Bay City. Jeff and I have been working back and forth on albums for about 5 years now. We really built our studios up to do something different for the individual independent artists. And him and I, he's like, I'm going to learn mastering. You're doing great, all this mixing, and I was doing guitar tracks for this guy in Europe, which I still am.
Yeah.
Every so often, and I learned really how to get in and get out and get all the good sounds going, and started mixing stuff, and everything came together. So we were cutting the vocals, and I said to him, you know what, the greatest thing would be if I can't do vinyl, because vinyl you got to get up and flip anyway,
Yeah.
which is actually where I started placing instrumentals at the either end or the start, because they're going to be
okay.
on flips. Because same with the really heavy one, Reflections.
Yeah.
That song was that, like, ideally you want 18 to 20 minutes on site. 18 is perfect.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, what are we going to do with this? And Jeff goes, yeah, but digitally you're going to have one track. You're going to be able to mix that track and make it flow like a great album, and everybody has the option of that. He says, then you got to put that on Bandcamp and sell it. I went, wow, that is the truth.
Yeah.
However, Bandcamp for one track will only allow you to do up to like a gig 0.3 or just under a gig. So the mix that I used for the record on the master file is like almost 3 gigs.
Yeah.
And it won't go. But I can put an MP3 version of the whole album mixed with that, which I have a version of.
Yeah.
So that might be something I do like for a year from now as a little bonus or something. But everybody that's bought the record and that have reached out to me, I send it to them. If you like thought enough of the record to reach out to me, I want you to have that 96 mix, because if you get in an airplane ride, you get in the car. Don Hessel said he used it as a soundtrack for a trip from Ohio to here, and he couldn't believe how well it worked for him. And I thought, wow, it's not a fast-paced album. Certain songs are, but he loved it. He said it just opened up the ride. I'm like, that's beautiful to hear.
That's how I listened to it, from Bay City to Ann Arbor.
Beautiful. And Fred got the first CD.
And it flowed, and I thought it was really professionally done. I
thank
told
you,
you
Fred.
that.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you
Sounds
guys.
At the end of it, I felt really good. And now hearing what you're talking about, because I just started to really listen to lyrics.
Oh, yeah, you got to be in the mood.
Because I'm a percussionist, and
Yeah.
who listens to lyrics? you know?
Right. No, hey, you know how albums, I go through them, and my mom always said, back in the day, hope you're not hearing those lyrics or something, Man Eater or something. I get the 45
Yeah.
or something. You're like, and I'm like, Mom, it's groove.
In fact,
It's groove.
Christmas, for Christmas I asked for Jethro Tull's Aqualung album. My parents got it, and my dad is, I open it at Christmas, and he's reading the back of the album, and he says, "Do you believe this stuff?" And I said, "What?" Anyway, that's what got me to listen to lyrics. My dad, because before it was all about the music.
Oh, yeah.
And when my dad questioned the lyrics, I said, "Oh, I should listen to the lyrics."
Absolutely.
And that was Aqualung.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I always thought to myself, I do hear the lyrics. I do hear them. That's why I'm loving this song or whatever. But the groove of the tune is where I think it's where I still listen to. If you were to hand me a CD and say, check this out, Scott, I'm going to either like it or I'm going to have to come back to it and see what's up with it. But then I'm going to dig into the lyrics, down the road. It's because it's a flow for me,
I think I really got Bob Dylan albums is when I got into listening to lyrics more, or at least his records.
Right. Oh, I could see that.
But that's all,
you can't get into the singing, that's for sure.
Well,
He's really unique.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, really unique.
I even, I did, for a class once I went to Delta, or no, this is at Saginaw Valley. I had a class of whatever it was. But I had to get up in front of the class, and I remembered all the lyrics to Bob Dylan's 110th Dream.
Oh, wow.
And that's what my whole speech was about.
Wow.
To the class.
It's heavy.
And I still remember some of the lines to it.
Wow.
But
That's fantastic, Fred.
he might have been the only one that I really listened to the lyrics.
Yeah. Well, I think there's more people now that really listen to lyrics, but it's
me too.
But this world has turned into, does your music put on a show? And unfortunately, that's the way it's all going. So your music's got to reflect some kind of show. And that's, as you turn on the Grammys, you can't find what you like to hear on there. I like to hear. I mean, it was already fading away in the 90s, But it's like, it's whoever puts on that show to match that music. And it's unfortunate because you can't get people that have been around or people to grow if they all have to be based on this whole aesthetic of these lyrics got to be matching that show and this dance for that music and all this stuff.
Yeah, I see your album as having, not a show, but like a video presentation behind, much like, this Rick Springfield's music is totally different. But at his concert last summer, he had an amazing video show. Did anybody see that?
Oh, yeah.
It was incredible.
I was blown away by it myself.
Yeah, really outstanding. When I could see this album, that would be very cool to have some sort of images going on
Absolutely.
behind it, even if they were just psychedelic, like a light show.
I think it would work for that, for my regular band shows. But I've also been talking, and goes back to one of the early mixes of the record with Don Hessel, the videographer that was on one of our the indie showcase work for 8 Hells Half Mile. He's interested in doing something to back the whole record with a visual. And he says it's going to be something that no one's ever seen before. So we're talking about it. I mean, I'm not going to put the weight on his shoulders, but
I see. Even I went to see Jason Dean's band last week, and this was like on a very small scale, but he had like a video screen at BMO's to the side. It was like maybe a 36-inch television screen or something like that. And they had sort of like a collection of dancing, like from the 60s. The Go-Go Girls, they had some scenes from Shindig and from different movies with, girls dancing like Go-Go Girls and so on. And that was playing while they were playing their set. And I was saying, it didn't really match, really, but still it was real interesting to have that.
Yeah.
But if you could get something that really synced into what your songs were all about, like was the case with Rick Springfield, or if Don could do something like that in regards to your album, boy, that makes a powerful statement.
I am hoping that
really
will be the next
you're
stage to
blending
this record.
the music with the visuals.
Which is another reason we were talking about that for a long time because he wanted something like that. And I was really interested in it because he's doing these great videos for Jeff Yance, and he's also a movie maker. So it's something that's definitely in the works. I would love to have that, to be able to take that out and play it like that.
Yeah, that would be really cool to play the whole album and have a visual presentation behind you at the same time.
Right.
And, again, you'd have to find the right place to do it.
Oh, for sure.
But
it takes me back to, and I think a lot of the writing too. There's a little bit of Alice Cooper in my writing, coming from my old mentor Dick Wagner when I used to work with him back in the early days, early days for me. Late '90s, early aughts at his studio. Dick and I would sit there and I'd listen to him go over some stuff and talk about, Welcome My Nightmare and how just incredible that was. He wrote all that, and that hit me hard writing this record. Like, I didn't want to write a Welcome My Nightmare, obviously, and I actually did not want to copy a Pink Floyd thing, but you want to use the elements of all these great things. And the Wagner element definitely came through in trying to tie the lyrical content with the visual to hope to have a stage show like that someday, you know?
Yeah, that just brings up this little off point here, but there's one of the posters that we got a hold of for the display was done at a B.B. King concert where the Frost was the opening act. And I remember the famous story of Dick Wagner where B.B. King actually invited him up on stage to jam with him. So it was really cool that we had that poster from that particular gig where they opened for B.B. King.
And that was in San
And
Francisco.
it's really hard to find a poster with the Frost on it.
Didn't that come from our buddy that was on our show? Because he showed me one of those. Was that one of his?
No, this came from Steve Kahn in Ann Arbor. That's one of the new posters we've got up at the here at the Historical Museum.
I got
of
a great
County.
story that backs that up. I was in the Muddy Gumbo when I was at WMG Records working with Dick, and that was my first band, my first attempt at writing, my first attempt at putting music together, let alone my voice and trying to develop something. And Dick was always like, you can write songs. You're a writer. You've got that natural ability. He says, you actually write catchy guitar parts. He says, just keep going with it. And I said, I don't know if you're into the jam band thing. He goes, I fucking hated the Allman Brothers. He says, I could give a shit less about them. And it always made me laugh because I was such an Allman Brothers fan, you know? And he goes, but I tell you what I did, Scott. And I go, what? And he sat back in his chair and he goes, BB invited me up to jam one night, so I did do a jam with BB King. He said, but who wouldn't, you know? And I'm like,
sure.
Yeah, Dick, you had to. He goes, and he says, yeah, he says, you know, we had some jams back in the day, you know, and obviously the Frost, and he says, but he says that was not my heart. He said I wanted to write orchestrated kind of music, and that's where his heart went.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you hear all the great Steve Hunter and Dick Wagner things because there was Dickie and Dwayne and Hunter and Wagner, and there's this handful of dual guitar players throughout history. And he hated being compared to those two guys. It just was a pain in the side.
You just reminded me of an email I got last week. Steve Hunter, of course, is in the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame. And it was really fun interviewing Steve when, he was writing his biography. And he started out playing a lap steel guitar. And he sent me a photo. I think he was probably 12 years old or something, playing the lap steel. And I got an email last week from a guy who lives in Minnesota, and he said, I've got Steve Hunter's lap steel guitar. And actually, my dad got it. He works in some capacity in Arizona where Steve and his wife Karen lived, and they moved. Of course, they live in Portugal now. And he said they threw out a bunch of stuff, and he came upon this case, and he opened it up. This is this guy's father. He opened it up, and there's a lap steel guitar in there, and he tracked it down that it was Steve Hunter's lap steel guitar, and they didn't have room. They could only carry so much with them to Portugal, and he threw away a lot of stuff, including this lap steel guitar. So then this guy is a guitar player, so his dad gave him the lap steel, and then he contacted Karen and Steve, and they verified that is.
Was it a Supro? Steve and I talked about it. I have a brother to that lap steel. Steve hit me up when I bought mine. When I first met Julie, my wife, we were up in Sault Ste. Marie, and they were selling the Supro lap steel up there. And I was like, $100? That's a steal for this lap. I get home, I took pictures in early days of Facebook, and Steve and I remembered me from the studio. We go back to when he came to town with Dick, and I interviewed him and spent a lot of time with him for the few days he was here. And he goes, Scott, that's the exact guitar I used for my very first guitar was a lap steel. I still have it. And when he moved from Arizona out there, he hit a few of us up like saying, I got a bunch of stuff for sale. I didn't remember seeing that on there, But he was trying to sell some of his gold
Well, that's what I
records
couldn't figure out.
and a bunch
Say,
of stuff.
Steve Hunter, you know,
Yeah.
people would have wanted to buy it.
Yeah, he probably
I don't know.
he was off in a ton of stuff, and he asked me about sales stuff, and I couldn't afford some of the stuff he was selling. But I remember being involved in the conversations, and
Yeah, I was
somebody
hoping
forwarded
this
me.
guy would loan the guitar to the museum here.
yeah,
We could
Yeah,
put
I
it
thought
in
you were going
a
to say
display case.
it's in the other room.
Oh, I certainly offered. I said, you know, we'll pay for shipping and, you know, we'll all be insured. I'm still waiting,
right.
but I don't know. I don't know if it's coming.
That's too cool.
Yeah.
That's a great story. That's Steve's a sweetheart too. Great guy. That's too cool, man. Steve was another. He had a lot to tell me about my writing and my songwriting. Dick did that. When I went solo out of Muddy Gumbo, that Between Seasons is my first record, and then Details and Desire, my second album. And I'd get them to Dick. I'd mail them to a copy, and he'd always send me. He says, unrequested. What do you call it? Unrequested. He'd dive into my songwriting anyway, and he'd either call me on the phone and do it, or he'd send me a message of what his thoughts were behind how I was developing.
That's great that Dick Wagner would do
Yeah.
that. You know, it shows you what kind of guy he was.
Yeah.
You know, he's
And I was
not all
so
about
honored.
himself.
He says, Scott, you keep doing this. He says, you're polishing it. He says, you could hear it in the music. He says, these are songs that somebody can make huge. If he says, if you can't get it out there, I love that.
Well, what a great thing to
Yeah.
do for somebody. You
Yeah.
know, that's a great bit of encouragement right there.
Completely. I was blessed though. I was telling Mike and people in the past that there's a story that Matt DeHughes did on me, that he allowed me to write my musical history one by one, by album and stuff. And I mean, my early days coming up as a songwriter and getting involved in the writing as a journalist, getting to hang out and meet some of my heroes, then eventually getting to know Larry McCray really close, learning how to, you know, Larry's to this day he's on a record of mine. You know, we play together, we do things. I got this bluesy side, and working with Dick in the studio. At the time, my brother-in-law Ray, he was married with my sister briefly. He's like, you got to get in here and use your journalism side for the studio. And I knew Dick briefly. Got to work with Dick and Larry. Bob Hausler started up the Songwriters Guild, and I got to work with Bob. I'm like, I've had these mentors every step of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Got to know Warren Haynes pretty well through the Mule thing when they started out doing his video trains. And I'm like, every step of the way I've been blessed with encouragement and having some of my heroes, or, you know, just being around them. And this comes natural now to be able to do something and continue on. And now that I'm the old guy in the crew, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like the kids come to me now. Like, it's a nice feeling to say,
Sure.
you know, it's just to be surrounded in that musicality is a huge thing.
So would you say that Purpose would, you know, in a way kind of be a culmination of all these influences and
Absolutely.
mentors and
Absolutely.
things that you've been lucky enough to
Absolutely.
do and have contact with over the years?
Absolutely. I don't think you're going to find too much blues on it per Larry.
No, it's not a blues record.
Larry and I were, you know, we're it's the solos are there, and that's where he fires it at. You know,
Yeah.
He's always like, if you're going to play that, grab a handful of notes, Scotty. You know, he tells me little things.
Yeah, I mean, soloing, I wasn't sure if it was you.
I did all
Or
the
if you-
guitars in here.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you brought somebody in, because I guess the many times I've seen you play, I haven't heard you solo like you're soloing on this record.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, it's very, very distinctive.
Oh, cool. No, Josh Corian wrote the record or idea concept with me. He was in the band. He bailed before he got to track on the record. He has his own stuff going on here in Bay City. His band Hellbound Drifters, which is pretty cool. And once Wesley left and Josh left, that left me and my core guys, Matt Nyquist, the bass player who's been with me about 15 years or 12 years, and Timmy, who's been with me over 20 years. We just plugged away at it. And I said, you know what, I can do all the guitar tracks. I'll get it where we need to go. And, you know, doing this guitar stuff for this guy in Europe, Tomas Gorshik, he's wonderful. He's always like having me on these pop hits that he's doing over in Slovenia. So it's cool that I've learned really how to get sounds and stuff and utilize the studio that way. So it worked out good for me to really get the stuff down. Now it's copping the solos live, getting it down that way.
Yeah.
I got to get another guitar player in the band. I got to get a keyboard player in the band, but we'll get there.
Yeah, the keyboards, if you're going to duplicate this record,
Yeah.
you really need that.
Really bad.
To
Mike Thomas, hats off to him.
round out the sound.
That took 2 years to do 2.5 years to do the record, but
Yeah.
waiting on Mike's tracks for the 10 months that he did them, or 11 months, was worth every second, just
Yeah.
because he put so much into them, and you could tell.
Are you, have you reached out to, to any labels, anything like that? I don't even know how that's done anymore. The way music is with streaming and everything
I've
else.
been considering doing that. I don't really know what route to take. Obviously, a nice independent might pick this up. Good, I'm getting kudos on the sound, so I know it's equivalent of a good sounding record.
I wonder if there'd be like a European label more than the U.S.
Good question.
They seem to have a greater
They
appreciation
do.
for different genres of music than, U.S. companies. It's all about sales. That's it.
Yeah.
You got to have something that's commercial. This is more, I don't know, more of a niche record. It's
Yeah.
for people that, like Pink Floyd, that like, progressive rock, that kind of thing.
That want to dive into a storyline.
Yeah,
record.
exactly.
Yeah, I've licensed 2 or 3 songs to German companies, record labels,
Well, I'm gonna have to
stuff that
look
I
at
have published.
Yeah, I know Mitch Ryder has made a career out of,
Most of his last
yeah, they're all
number of albums
are all
were made in
Europe.
Germany.
Yeah, in Germany.
Wow.
And unfortunately, Mitch Ryder could come here to Bay City, and I don't think people would maybe even fill a state theater. It's a shame.
I know.
The guy's legendary, and yet very much
I'm
underappreciated.
sure he's in the rock and roll or Michigan.
Right here.
He's in the Michigan.
Right here in the Michigan.
Yeah,
Rock
well,
Band?
certainly.
yeah.
He's here
Yeah.
twice, actually, as a
Well,
solo artist.
I know it. but-
And with the Detroit Wheels, but again, that's one of the Michigan. He is one of the Michigan artists that have been overlooked by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in
no
Cleveland.
kidding.
Geez, Grand Funk Railroad too. My God, they were
mean-
so big. For about 6 years, they were
Yeah.
just gigantic.
Yep.
I don't know. It's hard to
Well,
figure
when
that
you're
out.
in Europe and you turn on the radio in the car, you hear Mitch Ryder and Bob Seger all the time
In Europe.
in Europe.
Wow.
European, no matter what country.
What's funny is Dick Wagner's BMI statements used to come in, and I'd always check them out. I'd tell you guys the story. And he always had the biggest moneymaker for him was a song he co-wrote with Nils Lofgren from England. Like that was his bread and butter for his statements when they came in. That one tune he wrote with Nils Lofgren is so big in England that made him his the 3/4 of what he got from BNI from his record publishing.
Really,
Yeah.
I would think that the Alice Cooper songs would
He
be.
sold out all his rights to those.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, he
That was not a good move
Well,
because Alice.
So that
still
rumor
sells.
was true.
he had he was still getting some residuals, but
He needed the
signed
money.
it.
Was that it?
He signed it off on a lot of it. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Well,
Oh
you
well.
know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of more to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was pretty shocking to read his autobiography because I guess I never really thought of Dick Wagner as a drug user or a sex addict and all the other things
Yeah.
he revealed. Well,
Blueberry pie person. Yeah, that book was incredible.
yeah, it really was very good.
I really wish he would have got a lot more Saginaw in that book,
Well, yeah, he could have written a lot more.
but he kept it all
Yeah, he kept it.
post. He was like, "Nope, I'm in Arizona. I'm going to forget about Saginaw." So
Yeah.
And I think there was more behind that part of it than what we're going to know. Because he moved and had a better time in his last few years than
Yeah,
he did here. So
yeah, those years in the Bossman were pretty interesting. you
those
know.
were the best part of the Saginaw. But I mean, his Saginaw comeback years when I was with him
Oh, okay.
is such a little segment there. It's so,
Yeah.
but it's such a great read. That whole book's
Yeah,
amazing.
you really did a nice job on that.
But yeah, no, there's so much. It's incredible how overseas licensing does make money for a lot of
Oh,
artists.
yeah.
Well, I wanted
You
to
wanna
talk
keep
about
going?
hardcover really quick
Oh,
before
okay,
we forget
sure.
on the
Go for
record. Did you guys get to hear the end of that? How there's like an interview being done on that?
Yeah.
Okay. that was originally going to be just me being this big Martin Luther King-y type voice, like saying, I found my purpose, I found this, or found that. And it's like, I thought, Jeff looked at me like, that's interesting, when we were doing the vocal parts. And Eric Asel came over to do his background vocal parts, and he goes, hold on. He says, take me doing that like I'm some kind of old lost John Lennon cassette, and then put some fuzzy cassette sound and stuff on it. And he says, then bounce your voice like around it. Well, so I bounced my Martin Luther King voice coming out like it's being projected to the crowd in the left channel. Eric's right down the middle saying all the lines, Sharon did a voice of like his mother in his head, repeating the lines back to him. Mm-hmm. And the Ants did the radio guy announcing over the radio that's in the right channel. And it came out so cool that at the end, hardcover, you slam the book shut, Then we're on to the second half of the album, and you float into it with Life Part Due, figuring out the next path. So it's a pretty cool acoustic song.
Yeah.
Which, coming off of my last record, which is all acoustic based, I wasn't really wanting to go that route, but there's a lot of acoustic on this record. And that one song is
where it's usually it then moves into, from acoustic to electric in a lot of cases, like a bigger production. Yeah, that's neat.
Cool. I just want to give you guys the background on that, because people ask me more like, what the heck is that ending about? And it's like, that's where that came from. Eric had this idea, and I thought that's a pretty cool way to announce that whole finding the whole jive of purpose, all at the end of hardcover, how hard life is and stuff. And thank you guys, though, for
thank you
talking to me. I appreciate this.
Very interesting. I love the backstory of the songs, and
cool.
It makes me want to go home and listen to it.
Oh, great! I hope that
me too. I'll have to listen to the lyrics
you can
now.
Get this anywhere, like I said earlier, for those listening, and you can write us here at the podcast if you can't track down a copy for whatever reason. I'm just grateful to be surrounded again with some of my mentors, and this includes the podcast as well as the musicians. And I hope that you guys will come check out a show and onward to the next big thing for all of us. But thank you. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP 989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. Don't forget to look for Mr. Mike's local music live series, posted frequently on MMHP's Facebook hub, as well as Scott's Mid-Mitten 15 from Harvest Canteen, featuring one-on-one interviews with Michigan music artists. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, Mr. Mike at YouTube at Mr. BT1. That's MRBTEE and the number 1. Brought to you by Michigan Rock and Roll Legends, located both inside the Bay County Historical Museum on Washington Avenue, as well as Scotty's Sandbar on Evergreen Drive at the Bay City Middle Grounds.
On behalf of our hosts, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and myself, this podcast wouldn't have been here without the voice of the MMHP, Mr. Eddie Switek, the generosity of the Bay County Historical Museum, which hosts the Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame, as well as this podcast, Mr. Alan Garcia, all of our guests, and especially to the listeners. We want to thank you.
I don't know how many times I talked on the phone to our former mayor there, Chris Shannon, about 96 Tears, trying to get it as Bay City's official rock and roll song. So when he finally, I wanted it to be the official song of the city, not just a rock and roll song. So anyways, he finally we compromised. He's going to make it the official rock and roll song. So he does a presentation when I couldn't be there, but that's all right. At least it got done. But they did it at Old City Hall, and of course this is when Susie was on board.
Oh.
And Nina Simone had done that story or the book called Madonna Land that covered Madonna's relationship with Bay City. And when she was here, I started talking to her about 96 Tears being recorded in Bay City and so on. So that became part of the book too. So she came back from New York to Bay City to take pictures because she had a show on NPR at the time.
Nixon bumper stickers.
Yeah.
When we were like 13, what was it, 72 election, we'd walk downtown, down the railroad tracks, go downtown, go to the head shops, go to the political headquarters, and
Republican?
both,
Oh.
just to get bumper stickers.
Oh.
Free bumper stickers, man. And I still got Nixon's the One bumper stickers if anybody wants one.
That's